Fritz Van Mastricht, guy who's been in the San Francisco area just looking up at the sky on occasion, something that not everybody does. You were out one day and you said that it was a beautiful, clear day, and then what occurred?
Well, it was a crystal clear, beautiful spring day, and no weather system that was coming into the Bay Area at that time. I went to work early in the morning, and I was working on the side of a house on a ladder, and up and down that ladder for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And it was very warm and very calm, no wind, beautiful spring day.
So you were happy. I mean, what has a guy got to complain about? I don't know. Tell us the story.
Well, after a while, I got down off the ladder. It was time, to get something to drink and a little bit of food. And
right.
I got down off the ladder, and I was standing in the driveway, and I was looking down, and I had my towel, and I was wiping my sweat off my brow. And I looking down at the ground and around me, and I thought, are we having an eclipse? Because everything was extremely dim.
Maybe it was a UFO or something that flew over.
Well,
blocked the sun.
Well, that didn't occur to me at the time. I thought perhaps we were having an eclipse and I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So I looked up, and when I looked straight up, there was the sun off to my right a little bit, and then to the left of the sun was a huge trail of brownish, grayish gunk. What people call today a chemical type trail.
You were talking about a death dump.
A death dump, then, yeah.
So this was a beautiful day. Where did the death dump come from?
Well, later, as it turned out, I actually saw the aircraft that was laying these trails.
They were laying the aircraft.
They were laying the trails, right. And when I looked up, this trail had spread out, perspective to the eye, about 4 or 5 inches wide in the sky, and there were 11 of these trails running approximately northeast, to northwest, and then 3 trails diagonally across these trails. And I thought, how peculiar! I'd never seen anything like this. And prior to this time,
this is all natural, right?
Well, not to me.
Well, not to me, but I mean, a lot of people just go around. They're looking up and they don't see it. I mean, it's right in front of their eyes, right? It's right smack in front of your face, and you don't see it.
To them, that their condensation.
This man has seen it.
But these were since then. This was approximately 8 years ago.
Yep.
And I have seen many trails and what they call death dump trails since then. But the ones that I'm talking about now that I first saw, were kind of an anomaly because I've only seen them 2 years in a row, and then I've never seen them since. These trails were, like I said, very dark in color, very billowy, very low altitude, approximately 15, maybe 17,000, maybe 20,000 feet maximum. And I'm a pretty good judge of elevation, from my military experience. And what was peculiar about these trails was that they all started and stopped approximately, from my point of view, which was San Mateo, the city of San Mateo on the peninsula in the San Francisco area. They all started around the Menlo Park, Redwood City line. They didn't go all the way to the horizon. And then when I turned around, they all stopped about San Francisco County line.
Wait a minute, they just stopped? I mean, generally they want to dump the poisons over a heavily populated area.
Right. It could have been further than the San Francisco County line. It could have been, several miles further.
Hold on 1 second. Discounted to her. Just discounted to her. I don't know. Okay. Yes. All right. Yes, we're talking about. He's talking about the poisoning of the population, in fact, of the planet. But he's ex-military, and of course, that the military has never been involved in anything like this. I mean, except for the Agent Orange thing, and except for Afghanistan, and except for the Gulf War, and except for World War II, or the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the war was over. Outside of those small, incidents, well, maybe a few million here, a few million there. Aren't they trying to reduce the population of the planet?
Well, that would be my take on it. To me, it's becoming pretty obvious that that's what they're trying to do, or at least that's part of their agenda.
Yes.
But, after experiencing the effects within 2 to 3 days of initially seeing these trails, it made me a believer that there is something going on. Whether you want to call them chemtrails or death dumps or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, to me, something is going on, which I didn't really have prior knowledge of or really believe that really existed, as it was portrayed to me.
Yes, we're talking about, he's talking about the poisoning of the population, in fact, of the planet, but he's ex-military, and of course, that the military has never been involved in anything like this. I mean, except for the Agent Orange thing, and except for Afghanistan, and except for the Gulf War, and except for World War II, or the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the war was over. Outside of those small, incidents, well, maybe a few million here, a few million there. Aren't they trying to reduce the population of the planet?
Well, that would be my take on it. To me, it's becoming pretty obvious that that's what they're trying to do, or at least that's part of their agenda.
Yes.
But, after experiencing the effects within 2 to 3 days of initially seeing these trails, it made me a believer that there is something going on. Whether you want to call them chemtrails or death dumps or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, to me, something is going on, which I didn't really have prior knowledge of or really believe that really existed, as it was portrayed to me.
The president has a science czar, Holdren, John T. Holdren. I mean, he's been compared to Dr. Joseph Mengele in the days of Nazi Germany, but those are extreme charges just because they want to reduce the population by 90%. I mean, we're talking about quite frankly, some useless eaters. There's blacks and browns and, some people who don't really, sort of fit in. They want to just trim the population down 90% may be a bit exaggerated. That's what they say. Maybe they're only talking about 2/3 or killing 2 out of 3. If you've got 3 children, now you can afford to lose 2, right? I mean, that's the thinking of some of these people.
Oh, I believe it. In all my years of dealing with government officials and agencies, I'm totally convinced that they are totally contrary to the Constitution, totally contrary to mankind, totally anti-God.
I am shocked. Do you mean to say
that's my assessment?
These people are supposed to protect the Constitution and protect the people, and you're saying they're killing the people?
Well, I would just guess that about 99% of those government employees and officials have either never read the Constitution, but if they did, none of them really have understood what it is.
Wait a minute. Oh, come on.
Even though they've taken an oath.
Yeah, it's Constitution, Smonstitution. Some people say we just got to get rid of that thing. We don't need it. Some of them even want to make the Constitution into toilet paper. It's about the value that they place upon it.
Well, that's true. And it's very unfortunate because within that document, and it is not a perfect document, I realize, but within that document, I believe lies the remedy, or one of the remedies, to correct a lot of the ills in our society. But it takes the responsibility of the people at large to do something.
There's a world constitution. They want a world constitution, a new world order. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. Wasn't that a good plan? Hitler had... they've got the European Union now. The EU is Hitler's dream come true.
Well,
what do you think about the EU?
The EU? Well, I believe, quite frankly, that the EU is the reincarnation of the Third Reich or the Fourth Reich or the...
Well, it's the Fourth Reich of the rich.
Right. The Nazi Party reincarnate. And I believe that they will gain their power back, and they will evolve into another superpower headed by Germany.
Yeah, but didn't Germany get some bad rep? I mean, after all, Hitler's not around. The Nazis aren't really around, except, well, I mean, some people call the communazis Bund the group that's controlling this country right now. But bad rep. I mean, I hate to be criticized when I don't have a chance to defend myself. I mean, they built the Volkswagen, they built the highways, the fast, like our freeways, the Autobahn. I mean, come on. I mean, there are some good things.
Oh, a lot of wonderful technology has come out of that civilization, out of that era. But in spite of that, a lot of evil came out of that also.
Well, there's some things, if you liked what Hitler did, you're certainly going to love what Obama's doing.
Well, I believe they're all part and parcel of the same, beast, or of the same beast. That's my estimation.
Now, when you talk about beast, Fritz, I mean, come on. We're talking about the mark of the beast, the 666, you see all of this satanic symbols. The symbol of Uncle Sam, he's pointing and says, I want you, and I want you to join the army. I want you to be involved in the military. Then I take a look at have you ever seen the goat of Baphomet, the goat of Mendez, the satanic goat?
Oh, the goat, yes.
Yes, the satanic goat is, I guess, the prototype for Uncle Sam. In fact, the same whiskers in the beard, even exactly the same configuration. And then the configuration of the hat sort of goes on Uncle Sam. It's like the horns on the goat, the star in the center. And if you match them, whoa, Uncle Sam is Satan. I mean, that's what the Arabs say. I think, could they be right? I mean, could we have been conned? Could we have been brought down the primrose path towards the Emerald City? Are we to see Oz? Oh, God. What's... I talk to you, and it's like a breath of fresh air. You're talking the truth. Hasn't somebody been over knocking on your door saying, better shut up? We might come over to give you an adjustment.
In a sense, I've had my encounters with the government and the government agents, federal and state.
So they don't like what you're saying?
Oh, no, they've told me so. They've told me they do not like my ideology, they don't like me, they don't like my family, they don't like anything about me. In fact, they've even threatened me.
They've threatened you?
Yes.
And how have they threatened you? I mean, they're going to...
Well, in 1974, I was threatened by Army intelligence agents and along with CIA agents after I was picked up and brought to an interrogation room.
For what reason?
Well, that was my question. And after sitting there for a little while, they told me, they said, well, you're probably wondering why we brought you here. It's not because we want to ask you any questions. It's because we want to tell you all about you and your family. And they proceeded to do that. They told me things, they had a file on the desk.
What are they saying? What? You have family in Berlin, do you?
Yes.
That's very interesting, Fritz.
Right. And so, they proceeded to tell me how they didn't like my family, our ideology, they didn't like me, and that one day, pointing to me, one day we will get you. And they've tried, they've tried to set me up, and, they made my life miserable over the years.
Yeah, you were in the military. What rank?
I was a staff sergeant.
A staff sergeant in the U.S. military. Come on, I'm to believe that they threatened a staff sergeant in the U.S. military? I mean, I thought that the staff sergeants, well, you were working for those guys at one time, were you not? And then they turned around, and how do you feel about that? I mean, Henry Kissinger says that military men are dumb, stupid animals and should be used like pawns in the game of international chess. Do you think there's some... I think, I don't agree with Herr Heinrich, or Herr Kissinger, Bohr, that was his code name when he was involved with the ODRA, which is the well, division of the KGB at one time in Poland. Then of course there was Stasi over there. I mean, all these things. Is all of the stuff that's going on? I mean, is this simply out of a novel somewhere, or is it for real?
Well, from my perspective, I feel it's quite real. Having experienced many of the things that I've experienced directly with the government, I've always been a fighter. I've always kind of had a big mouth. And whenever I've had an encounter with the government in the last 40 years plus, without exception, I've immediately gone on the offensive, and which usually makes them back down immediately, in most cases. So with all these encounters over the years, it has made me realize that I'm dealing with
Criminals?
Well, a lot of criminals.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Criminals, godless criminals.
Godless.
You know, absolutely
Godless?
godless. And
Wait
many
a
of
minute, godless. I mean, they have a god, the Lord Lucifer. In fact, the President of the United States has followed Saul Alinsky, and the dedication of his book, The Rules for Radicals, is dedicated to the Lord Lucifer. I mean, that's not godless. I mean, how can you say that's godless? Is simply because they have a Luciferian agenda.
That's their God with a small g, but it's certainly not my God.
So you're not into that Luciferian stuff, the satanic stuff?
Not at all. In fact, you know, I have found that most of these entities that I've had major encounters with over the years really represent a government which doesn't belong to me or the American people. You know, if such an entity even exists anymore.
Well, they have a New World Order, ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, one race, one world, one ruler. Heil Hitler, they go. I mean, they say we've got to have, you know, global government. We've got to have some sort of control. We've got to have a reduction of the population of the planet by 90%. And you've actually witnessed some of this going on behind the scenes. But I mean, actually, you've seen it personally.
Well, I have. Well, yes. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I have known. I've had friends, personal friends, who have been literally murdered, shot in the back by government agents for committing no crime, only because they were not politically correct. And
well, I mean, doesn't the government have a right to shoot somebody in the back? I mean, if they're politically incorrect.
well, according to their religion, yes. Not according to my religion. According to my religion, which I believe was, had a big part, played a big role in the foundation of America, America.
But couldn't the government simply justify the shooting of certain people in the back? I mean, the people who weren't really in the right place and doing, speaking out too much or disclosing this and that. I mean, we give that permission to the CIA, which is the enforcement arm of the Council on Foreign Relations. I mean, the banksters, I mean, how else can they control, how else can they bring a new world order? How else can they have a world government, world religion, world currency? I mean, it's all for the greater good, isn't it?
Well, again, according to their religion, their philosophy, their ideology, if you will, they're basically what we used to call secular humanists, which believe that the ends justifies the means. But that's not the way I was brought up. That's not the way that I think most Christians, if you will, were brought up with that ideology.
I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking, here's a man who's an independent, a sort of a Howard Rourke in the Fountainhead, or Ayn Rand's Atlas, Shrugged. Who's that guy? Who is John Galt? Who knows? I mean, are there independent people around there? Do you think independent? Are you thinking along his line, my line? I mean, it's being the devil's advocate for a moment, without being the devil. I hope that I'm not the devil. I just want to, they have to have a position. I mean, you've got your position. I have to assume their position for 1 minute, because in journalism, just journalism, we have to present both sides. Join us. We've been talking to a fellow named Fritz How do I pronounce your last name?
Van Mastricht.
Van Mastricht. Like Van, Mastricht? T?
R-I-G-H-T.
R-I-G-H-T. Maastricht. Right. Whew. Spell it again.
M-A-S-T-R-I-G-H-T.
Shall we list you as an independent American? How would you like to be listed?
Not a member of any party or organization per se, but yeah, I would say independent, free thinker.
Free thinker. Boy, sounds radical to me.
Oh, according to the FBI, I'm a potential terrorist because I believe in many of the precepts of the Bible. I believe in the Constitution for the United States of America.
Whoa, wait. You're talking about radical documents now.
Yes,
Seriously,
of course.
I just finished this. Radical documents, the Bible and Constitution. Come on now. Can that be allowed in the United States today? Shouldn't it be tamed down, or what we can and cannot say, shouldn't it be restricted just a little bit?
Well, that would go contrary to the Bill of Rights. You know, some of the protection mechanisms within the Constitution. That would go contrary to, you know, our unalienable rights. You know, we were brought up in this nation, I was anyway, that killing is wrong. We've had foundational laws based on common law that said murder is wrong. It's a crime. You know, theft is a crime.
Well, isn't it authorized by the president and his staff to? I mean, this guy named Wheeler, who is going to speak about the death dumps and things that were going on. He wound up in a trash dump, making, what is it, compost? What is that stuff that the garbage?
Compost?
Yeah, compost. The choice is up to you. You can go along this road, or you can go along the Obama Highway. Obamageddon. Abomination. We have different thoughts, and we're exploring it here. So we can use this on film.
Certainly.
Good, thank you.